What's going on, everybody? Welcome. It is Thursday, May 25th, and my name is Rob St. Clair. Welcome to national team season. It is here. It's crazy. We were just the other night on our show, the 9x9 on Tuesday, talking about the Champions League final. It just happened on Saturday, but already we got to turn it around pretty quickly and preview the Volleyball Nations League. It is here. And we're going to be doing a bunch of coverage here on the Volleyball Source YouTube channel and all over the place. But we wanted to start it off with a preview of the United States women. Everything about the U.S. women going into the 2023 VNL, which starts this Tuesday, May 30th. The U.S. women kicking off next Wednesday, May 31st in Turkey. So we'll get into all of that. We have, like I said, we have a lot more coming out. Everett and I, my Canadian friend Everett Delorme, who hosts the show with me on Tuesdays, just recorded a video today about all of Women's VNL. That should hopefully be up tomorrow. So Friday, May 26th, if you're watching this after the fact. But we'll focus just on the U.S. women here. Everett will do a show by himself focusing on the Canadian women, and then we'll do the same thing for the men at some point next week before the men's tournament. But all about the U.S. women here on the show this afternoon. Let me know in the YouTube chat. I can already see a couple people in there. If you've got any questions, if you've got any comments about the U.S. women, great. Put it in there. We'll get active. I'll answer questions either throughout the show or at the end or whatever. But let's get into it. Let's talk about the United States women. So right now, the U.S. women come into the 2023 national team season ranked number 4 in the world. As you may remember, we took 5th at last year's VNL after going 11-1 in the preliminary round, being the number 2 seed overall into the final bracket of 8. We got upset by Serbia in a 5-setter in the quarterfinals, upset by Serbia without their best player. Then we went to the World Championship later last summer and came up 4th, lost to Italy in the bronze medal match. So no hardware for the U.S. women in 2022 after winning Olympic gold the summer just prior, which was definitely disappointing. But we've got a big bounce back opportunity this summer with the Volleyball Nations League. So Everett and I talked about the format overall of kind of how all of VNL works on our show or our episode that'll be out tomorrow. But to go over the VNL in an abbreviated format and kind of a U.S. centric way, there's 16 teams that play this tournament. There are 3 weeks of preliminary round games. The U.S. will be in Turkey, followed by Brazil, followed by Korea. Those 3 weeks, each week plays from a Tuesday to a Sunday, and so that's 6 days. And every team who goes to each week plays 4 matches in those 6 days. So that's 12 matches total for the preliminary round. Top 8 teams out of the 16 after those 12 matches make the finals. But, and this is something that we're definitely going to focus on here today, the U.S. women are hosting the VNL finals this year, July 12th through the 16th in Arlington, Texas. So that actually changes a lot about the qualification scenarios for the U.S. women. And let's get into it. Everybody else has to work hard to qualify. Everybody else in the tournament has to be among those top 8 teams in order to get a spot in the finals in Texas. But being the hosts, the United States women qualify automatically. That's huge. So we don't have to worry about clawing for a spot in the top 8 in terms of making the finals. We are in. We're going to have a spot playing at home in the finals no matter what. But what is really interesting about this and what was new to the VNL last year was the way that the host of the finals is seeded. Now, this is important. If the United States, after the preliminary round, is in the top 8, top half, that's all you need to be. If we finish in the top 8, we get the number 1 seed in the final bracket. But if we finish outside the top 8, so bottom half, we enter the final bracket as the number 8 seed. And we would then play the 1 seed in the first round because the finals reformat as of last year is just a straight up 8-team single elimination bracket. So there's a gigantic difference between being the 1 seed and being the 8 seed. So the United States' goal under Karch Karai this summer is to just barely finish in the top 8. You don't have to work all that hard to try and finish top 1 like we did last year, finishing 11-1 and being the best team seated only behind the hosts in the finals last year. We don't have to work at it in that same way. All we got to do is finish top 8, and we will get the 1 seed in the bracket in Texas. This is big. Oh, are there people in the chat telling me already that they changed this rule? Oh, no way. They changed they changed the rule after 1 year. Somebody let me know. Put a link in the chat to the source on that or where that was posted, because I was digging through the VNL website and I did not find that anymore. So, ooh, interesting. So I guess the US still automatically qualifies, but doesn't automatically get the 1 seed unless they earn the 1 seed. Wow, that is a really unlucky break, and I don't really understand that change. Weird. So they totally changed that after last year, the way it was last year, and they didn't really post that anywhere. So classic volleyball world. Somebody, if you find a link to where that is, post it in the chat so that I can give it a check. But yeah, that's news to me, and I guess that's that actually just changed things a little bit. But what doesn't change is that the U.S. gets a spot in the bracket in Arlington no matter what. I just figured that all we had to do is make top 8 and we get the 1 seed. I guess that's not the case anymore. Yeah, somebody put a link in the chat if you can find some documentation on that. So that does change things a little bit, but regardless, the U.S. will play in the finals in Texas. I'm actually looking forward to that event. Arlington is a suburb of Dallas. It's a big volleyball hotbed. The University of Texas just won the NCAA championship. I expect the crowd for that to be pretty good, even though USA Volleyball is terrible at marketing events. I'll help them out here. If you can go to the VNL finals in Texas, go to that event. It's going to be sweet. As for if you can't go to the VNL finals in Texas, or if you get or if you want to watch any of the volleyball throughout all the preliminary rounds and throughout all this tournament and the Olympic qualifiers later this year and all this stuff for national team, pick up a subscription to Volleyball World TV. That's the over-the-top platform that Volleyball World put together about 3 years ago. Pretty cheap subscription, all things considered, and it's a pretty good value for having all the matches in one spot, live and on demand. So that's where you can watch all the games in every country around the world. So okay, we got some people in the chat. That's great. Keep up that activity. Let's dig into the roster for the USA women, and kind of how this works is, if you're new to the VNL, Karch Karai and the US program, same as every other national team playing in VNL, before the tournament, they get to name what we call their preliminary roster of 30 players. And of those 30 players, for every week of the preliminary round, so each of those 3 weeks, and of the finals, the week in Arlington, each team gets to name 14 of those 30 players that are going to travel to that week in particular. So in order to play VNL at all, you have to be on that 30-person preliminary roster. But that doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily travel to a given week or any of the weeks or suit up at all. So every team has already named their 30-person rosters, but the 14-person travel rosters for each week are going to change. And so we already actually know the roster for week 1 for the U.S. women, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, I wanted to go through by position group the 30-player U.S. women's roster. And let's start with the setter position, because there's a lot to talk about here. So Karch Karai has named 5 setters to the preliminary roster for the 2023 VNL. Micah Hancock out of Penn State, Lauren Carlini out of Wisconsin, Jenna Gray out of Stanford, Ashley Evans out of Purdue, and Tori Dilfer out of Louisville. And one very notable omission in that setters list is Olympic gold medal starter Jordan Poulter out of the University of Illinois. Poulter unfortunately tore her ACL at the beginning of this club season, playing for Novara in Italy. That was back in maybe October, maybe November-ish timeframe, definitely in the late part of 2022. Jordan Poulter tore her ACL, so she's in the middle of recovering. No chance will she be ready for the VNL. I think that Olympic qualifiers in like late August, early September it's actually late September. That might be in the cards maybe for Jordan Poulter, but definitely not for the VNL. So Karch Karai will be without his starting setter for this tournament, but you still got Micah Hancock, the Olympic gold medalist from Tokyo, in the backup role. You get Lauren Carlini, who played a lot in the VNL last year, actually kind of has taken over the second setter spot in the depth chart behind Poulter. And then a couple younger or less experienced characters as far as the national team goes, but girls who have been playing overseas, who've got some experience, Jenna Gray, Ashley Evans, and Tori Dilfer. I, being a Purdue Boilermaker, know Ashley Evans really well. I absolutely love her career. She's been all over the place in Europe. She was in Germany this past year, and I really like her game, and I'm hoping to see her suit up and play a little bit of VNL, and I will tease the roster for week 1. Ashley Evans is the second setter in that's going to Turkey this week for the U.S., which is awesome. So 5 setters. I think we'll see either Hancock or Carlini at every one of the weeks, even in the preliminary round. And then when it gets to the finals, it'll probably be both Hancock and Carlini. I think just by experience alone, both of them playing in the Italian league, the best club league in the world, but both of them haven't really been around the block for both club and national team. I think in Poulter's absence, Hancock and Carlini are pretty much a no-brainer to be the two setters for the finals, but I'd say at least one, if not both, will go to each of the preliminary round weeks as well, and hopefully get like Gray, Evans, and Dilfer, hopefully get him some reps. No reason why not, because we're already been automatically qualified for the finals, although I guess we've got news broken on this show that that it's not how I thought it was, and we got to work a little bit harder for whatever seed we're going to get. Good point in the chat that Micah Hancock is a weapon from the service line. Absolutely, that's a huge reason for bringing her on any roster. I'd say Carlini is a better pure setter, but Hancock's serve is really among the best in the world. I know she broke the all-time record for aces in the Italian league last season, which was insane. So she contributes a lot in that area, but I would say Carlini is the better pure setter, in my opinion, at the moment. I think Gray, Evans, and Dilfer add a lot, though, as well. I think they'll be just fine. If they need to play, if they need to come in a double sub, if you need to start them in a match, I think that any of those three players have enough experience by now to not look like they're totally out of place. So I think that's kind of it for the setters. Just notable that Poulter is not going to play VNL. She recovers from a torn ACL. We'll see if we might get her back later on in the summer. And I really expect Hancock and Carlini to be the setters for the finals. Let's move on to the opposite position. Only 4 opposites named to the 30-player preliminary roster. We've got both Olympic gold medalists, Annie Drews out of Purdue, Jordan Thompson out of Cincinnati. We've also got Danielle Catino, also a Purdue Boilermaker like myself. Both Drews and Catino were the 2 opposites at the World Championship last year, as Thompson missed that tournament with a concussion. We also get Stephanie Samity out of the University of Minnesota, who played the first half of this season at Perugia, which was not a very good team in Italy, and then left halfway through the year to be the backup opposite on Conegliano, who was the best team in Italy. Annie Drews played only the second half of the year with Volleyball in Italy, took the first half of the year off. And Jordan Thompson had an unbelievable season playing for Monza, or Milano as they seem to be called now. We've like to call them Malonza on the 9x9 for their inability to figure out what their own team name is. But Jordan Thompson, especially in the finals, of 5-match series against Conegliano that Monza ended up losing, Thompson was dealing with a leg injury as well and was an absolute warrior. Got so much volume. I think she got 71 attacking attempts in the 5th match in 4 sets, which is just ridiculous. I mean, kind of what we're seeing in women's volleyball right now is you need to have there's 2 ways that you're going to be an elite team, and the United States is an elite team in women's volleyball. You need that one superstar tier opposite, like that one player that has a case to be the best player in the world. I'm talking Paula Egonu, Tiana Boskovic, Isabel Haak, and I would put Melissa Vargas in that category as well. If you have one of those 4 players, you are just automatically a contender by that one superstar scorer alone. But if you don't have one of those players, you need somebody that's close, and you need a really well-rounded team in all areas around them. And I think that's what the United States did really well in 2021 when we won the Olympics. Jordan Thompson was the starting opposite, but she got hurt in the Olympics. Annie Drews came in off the bench, played great. Didn't have to be the Egonu or Boskovic level scorer because everybody else around that position and the rest of the team played so well. And I think this bodes really well for the U.S., this opposite position group, because of how good Jordan Thompson just was. And if that she can remain healthy for this VNL run, she's going to be the starting opposite when we get to the finals, and she is world-class. If she's not in that top 4, which I don't think she quite is, she is just outside of it. I think Jordan Thompson is in a tier kind of with like Magdalena Stysiak of Poland and Ebrar Karakurt of Turkey, like right in that next group up, and maybe Kira Van Rijk of Canada. Jordan Thompson is really good. She had a really, really good pro year. She actually started over Magdalena Stysiak. They were on the same club team. I have so much faith in Jordan Thompson, but I also would really like to see her get a couple weeks off. I know she's not on the roster for week 1. She's played a lot of volleyball. She got a ton of volume in that final series. She needs a break, and that's okay. That's going to be part of the thing for Karch Karai and all the coaches this VNL, is that everybody is going to have a balancing act to do of playing your best lineup, keeping that best lineup ready to go win the VNL when it comes finals time, and winning matches to keep your world ranking up, because now with the new world ranking system, every match matters. Instead, it's not your tournament finish, it's every match result. But also, you got to give some players a break. We don't have an off season in volleyball. It's totally not fair to the athletes. A lot of these girls are just finishing up their club seasons. Like the Champions League final was less than a week ago. So the coaches have to balance that. They're going to give some players a week off here and there. They're going to bring some players to certain weeks here and there. And a player like Thompson needs a couple weeks off, but I expect her to be really good and ready to play the finals. But in her place, I know for the first week, it's going to be the Boilermaker duo of Annie Drews, Danielle Coutinho. That's a really capable duo. Annie Drews is really, really good. Great left arm, really good block vision that she's developed since I played with her in the gym at Purdue all those years ago. And Danielle Coutinho had a good season in Japan this year after playing in Brazil previously. Just a big physical presence that can kind of be more vertical and over the top sort of a player, whereas I'd call Annie Drews like sort of a horizontal player. Like she gets a lot of forward momentum into the ball. Either of those players are going to be fine. They're not going to be the Egonu, Bošković, Hawk, Vargas sort of super scorer, or maybe even in the Thompson category, but they're going to be perfectly good enough on the right side while Thompson takes a week or two off. And then Samity, I definitely think she's fourth on the list. I would be surprised if she traveled a week. I didn't really love what I saw from her this club season, at least like her first half of the year when she started at Perugia. She did not look very good. That team wasn't very good. Tori Dilfer was the setter at that time. That didn't really go very well. And so Samity jumped ship midway through and was a bench warmer in Caneliana when they won a championship. So I don't expect to see her that much. I think it's Thompson, Drews, Coutinho in that order for opposite. I'm going to scan the chat here pretty quickly about just sort of the opposite discussion. Has Annie Drews been playing? Yeah, she hopped into Volleyfolio with Micah Hancock second half of this year in Italy. Yeah, she's. I really think it's easy to summarize: Thompson, Drews, Coutinho, Samity in that order. Let's move on. Let's move on to the outside hitter position. Boy, do we have a crew. We have quite the crew of players here. 10 outside hitters out of the 30 in the preliminary roster. Ali Franti, Jordan Larson, Cara Bayama, Simone Lee, Catherine Plummer, Kelsey Robinson-Cook, Brooke Nunaviller, Avery Skinner, Kalia Lanier, and Ronnie Jones-Perry. That's the 10. That is a lot of bodies. And if you've been watching the United States women the last couple years, I'd say the biggest position group of interest has been the outside hitter spot. Obviously, it was Jordan Larson, the Olympic MVP, and Michelle Barch-Hackley, who carried that team at the outside spot in the Olympics to a gold in 2021. Then Barch has retired. Jordan Larson retired. Jordan Larson has since unretired and is back on the national team preliminary roster this year, which I was actually really surprised by. I did not expect to see her. I mean, she seemed to have been a little indecisive about what she's wanted to do with her career since the Olympics. She's sort of retired, unretired from club as well. But just the veteran presence of Jordan Larson in the gym is valuable enough. I don't honestly expect her to travel that much. I honestly, she might not even start if she is on the roster for the finals. She might not even be a starter, honestly. She might be more of a first character off the bench and just a leadership presence sort of player. I'm not really sure how Karch is planning on using her. I'm interested to see that. But Larson is on the roster for the first time since the Olympics. But past that, I'd say I think it's fair to say that the United States' shortcomings last year, failing to medal in either VNL or the World Championship, those shortcomings were the outside hitter position. Without Larson, without Barch, the players like Kelsey Robinson, Catherine Plummer, Ali Franti, Cara Bayama, Sarah Wilhite Parsons, who's not on this roster, some of those people were given chances to play and step up, and there just wasn't a whole lot of continuity, wasn't a lot of leadership, wasn't a lot of experience. And the consistency at that position, we didn't really get a player at all last summer who was consistent in both reception and attacking. That's what I think we've been missing. I think it's pretty easy to take any of these outside hitters on this roster, and you can kind of categorize them into a scoring outside hitter or a ball control outside hitter. What I'm interested to see is if the United States this summer can develop a player who can do both. Right now, I'm not convinced. I have no idea which of these outside hitters is like who's going to be the two starting outside hitters when we get to the finals in Texas. I have no clue. And honestly, that's kind of a good thing because it's going to give Coach Kirai a lot of chances to play around with some options and get some data on some players in the preliminary round. But I mean, Ali Franti was one of the leading scorers at the World Championship, but her ball control was a little iffy at times. Catherine Plummer, I think 2 VNLs ago, like when it was in the bubble, she had an amazing tournament, almost squeaked her way into the Olympic roster. But then last year, VNL wasn't very good. This year in club was really streaky at best, wasn't very good in the finals, even though Corneliano won. Kelsey Robinson also won a title with Corneliano this year, but she is very much not a scorer. I think she had a stat line in the playoffs, something like 4 for 30, 4 for 31, just cannot terminate a ball at her age this time, but she's an outstanding ball controller, so she has value there. I do want to see a little more of Kara Bayama this summer for the national team. She was amazing the second half of the year for Vakifbank Istanbul, winning their second Champions League in a row. She was the second outside hitter across from Gabi Guimarães, who's the best outside in the world. And Bayama was kind of brought in to be the third behind Nika Daldarup, but outplayed Daldarup by the midway point in the season and wasn't a superstar, but was really rock solid in Vakifbank's Champions League run and in that title match where they beat Eczacıbaşı in 4. I really thought that Bayama was good and has a chance to start. I wouldn't say she's an amazing offensive weapon. I also wouldn't say she's an amazing ball controller, but I'd say she's above average in every area and can pair well with either a scorer or a ball control type. Let's see. Simone Lee had a good year at Stuttgart. I mean, there are a couple newer characters like a Simone Lee, Brooke Nunaviller, Avery Skinner, Ronnie Jones-Perry, Khalil Lanier. I'd say those 5 have much less national team experience, but I'm really excited, especially for Khalil Lanier to get a look. It's about time we got her in the national team gym. She was awesome for Bergamo this year. She played with Mac May. Lanier was the best player on that Bergamo team that made the playoffs in Italy this year. She was really good. I think she's a legitimate scorer, left, right, and pipe, and can also hold her own in the ball control area. So I would really like to see her get some legitimate touches this VNL. And I think if the roster is shaping up the way I think it is for week 1, I actually think we're going to see that. So that's awesome. Brooke Nunaviller graduated from Oregon, jumped over to the Turkish league midway through the year, was pretty good for a Nilüfer team that was middle of the pack team in the Turkish league. Avery Skinner's won 2 national championships for 2 different schools. She was on sort of an American super team in Béziers in France with like Justine Longarantes and Blake Moeller and some others. Ronnie Jones-Perry has been around the block. She played with Canadian setter Brie King in Rio de Janeiro this year. Simone Lee won a championship for Stuttgart in Germany. So a lot of depth, but not a lot of experience in international events among kind of that group of outside hitters. So when it comes to starters, who's going to start in the VNL finals, I honestly have no idea. I think that if you were to bring 4 outsides to that event, which it makes sense, that's sort of a common number. You maybe could stretch it to 5. You got to bring Jordan Larson for veteran presence alone. Then I think Franti, Bayama, and Kelsey Robinson are the next couple up, unless Plummer has a way better summer than she did a club season. I have not liked what I've seen from her. She's obviously got great size and she should be able to overpower people offensively, but she's been a real serving liability, like a reception liability, and has made too many unforced errors for my liking and just doesn't seem to have a whole lot of confidence right now. So hopefully she can get some of that back in the gym and get back to some of the form that we saw from her a couple seasons ago, like kind of when she broke out for the national team. But I'm not sure. I really don't know what Karch is going to do. I think Jordan Larson should be the first player off the bench in the VNL final, but I think she's going to be more of a gym presence and sort of a player coach, at least among the outside hitters, as we go through the course of this summer. I'm really curious to see how that goes, but I think outside hitter is the key position to see if this American team can have some success, because if we can't pass the ball and we can't score any points on the left side, then Jordan Thompson is just going to get too overworked on the right. And I don't think that style of volleyball is what makes sense for this American team. So I'm scanning the chat to see the the discussion about outside hitters. Yeah, a lot of people talking about Kalia Lanier, how good she was, how good Karabayama was. I agree. How not so good Catherine Plummer was. I agree with that. How Jordan Larson and Kelsey Robinson are now basically the same player as far as ball control, not a lot of offense. I kind of agree with that too. So we'll see if Karch, I mean, he was at one time the best player in the world at outside hitter himself. Let's see if he can create a 5-tool outside hitter. See if we can create a player that can serve, that can block, that can receive, that can defend, and that can attack. If we can have someone that can do all those things, I like this U.S. team a lot this summer. Let's move on to the middle blocker position. I got a couple familiar names here, got a couple very new names here. We got maybe the best middle blocker duo in the world in Haley Washington and Shaka Ogbogu. I think those are the two clear starters. Washington, a really good year at Scandici. Ogbogu, an amazing year with Vakif Bank, was spectacular in the Champions League final. Those two, I'll take that middle duo again. Match them up with anybody in the world. I have a lot of faith in that middle blocker duo right there. I would call Dana Retke third in that group. She didn't play a lot for Monza this year in the Italian league. I think the foreigner limit worked against her, but she was also behind two really good players in Stevanovic and Foley on that team. I'd like to see her get a little bit more run. That would be cool. And then Anna Stevenson, or Anna Hall as her married name is, has played a little bit as well. She was on the World Championship roster last year. Then past that, we get some new characters. Breon Butler has been in and out of the gym. Asia O'Neal is a really exciting prospect out of Texas. Still has another year, actually, which is insane to be playing like almost 24 and be playing NCAA still. Danielle Hart out of Wisconsin, and then Madeline Gates out of UCLA and then Stanford. Some new faces at the middle blocker spot. Can learn a lot from people like Ogbogu and Washington who have won Olympic gold medals, and Retke as well has played in the best league in the world for a couple of years now. Same with Anna Stevenson out of Cuneo in Italy. But I really want to see Asia O'Neal get a little bit of run. I would really like to see just what her raw athleticism can do at the international stage, and see how quickly she can learn the blocking game, because certainly not an easy jump to go from the NCAA to the VNL in terms of the middle blocker blocking position. But let's see. I'm scanning the chat for more middle blocker feedback. Somebody says that Retke's going to snatch Haley Washington's spot. That's possible. Scandici had a weird year. Haley Washington, they were really handcuffed by the foreigner limit. So there were times when Washington got pulled because they had to put foreigners in elsewhere, and then there were other times when she got pulled just because she wasn't very good. So but she always plays better on the national team than she does in club. So I'm not worried about Haley Washington. I would like to see Retke play well a decent amount. We've seen her dominate people. We've seen her be kind of invisible in the blocking game too. But Shaka Ogbogu is world class. And then whoever you put next to her between Washington and Retke, I have no problem with the middle blocker position. I'm confident in this group for the U.S. So 8 players. I think a couple sort of, I would say Hart, Gates, and maybe even Butler are basically just to be there in the gym to get experience. I would be surprised if they got a lot of legitimate court time, but I think O'Neal kind of could. I think just for the youth and the prospect factor, I could see Asia O'Neal getting a little bit of court time. So I'm scanning the chat again. I think that's kind of it for the middle blocker position. Last but not least, let's look at liberos. Only three liberos out of the 30. And I think that's kind of all we need. Kendall White, Justine Wong-Orantes, and Morgan Hentz. I don't think we need any more liberos than those three. Clearly, Justine Wong-Orantes has elevated herself since winning Olympic gold to being one of the best liberos in the world, and being just a leader and an area of security and confidence for Karch and Team USA. I have no doubt that Justine Wong-Orantes will start at libero, and I have no doubt that Morgan Hentz is a very capable backup. I know she didn't like really play club this year, was like sticking around stateside, playing a little bit Athletes Unlimited ball, but like that libero duo is going to be just fine, especially in the terms of leadership. Like when we lost Jordan Larson and Michelle Barch, my question sort of last year for the U.S. women was, where was some of that leadership going to come from? And the libero position is a difficult one to like be a vocal leader from. You've got to have leadership qualities in, anchoring the reception unit and the backcourt defense. But I did kind of notice that Justine Wong-Orantes was taking command of some timeout huddles a little bit. And I like to see that. And I think the U.S. could use a little bit more of that. So Wong Arantes is going to be the starter for sure. I think Hence 2, Kendall White 3, if you ask me right now. And comment in the chat, even Kendall White is unnecessary. I kind of agree. I don't think you really need more liberos than Wong Arantes and Hence. Like maybe if one of them needs a week off from travel, bring White along for the ride. She's a good energy player, but yeah, we definitely don't need any more than these three. So that's all the position groups. I think now it's worth focusing on the roster and sort of the schedule for week 1. This has been announced. We know the 14 players that Karchkarai has chosen to bring to Antalya, Turkey for week 1. The first 4 matches, we've got Serbia next Wednesday, we've got Italy next Friday, we've got Korea next Saturday, and we've got Turkey next Sunday. That is a hard week. And we'll talk about the strategy around that in a second. But let's read down the roster. The 2 setters, Micah Hancock and Ashley Evans. The 2 opposites, Annie Drews, Danielle Coutinho. The 4 outside hitters, Avery Skinner, Kalia Lanier, Ronnie Jones-Perry, Brooke Nuneviller. The 4 middle blockers, Dana Retke, Breon Butler, Madeline Gates, Asia O'Neill. And the 2 liberos, Justin Wong Arantes and Morgan Hens. You look at that roster pretty quickly. You notice that's a B team. That is only... 3 Olympians, Hancock, Drews, and Wong Arantes. And totally a B team. But we kind of saw the U.S. do something similar last year. Week 1 in Louisiana was very much a B team. We got away with it. I think we went 4-0 that week. The strategy this week is different. The reason why this is a B team this week, and the reason why I absolutely agree with sending a B team this week, is because of who our opponents are. First of all, it's week 1. Of all weeks for some of your superstars to need a rest, it's this one, especially Jordan Thompson, Jordan Larson, like Chaka Bogu, Karabayama, like the players who just literally finished up their club seasons. They need a break this week, and I agree with giving it to them. But look who we're playing. We're playing the number 1 team in the world in Serbia first. We're playing the reigning VNL champions in Italy second. We're playing by far the worst team in the field in Korea third. And we're playing a very dangerous team and on their home soil in Turkey, 4th. Korea is a free win no matter what roster we bring. They are downright terrible. They went 0-12 last year. They very well may do so again. So even if we send a B team, we will beat Korea. That's a free win. But even if we bring the A team, like this early in the summer when none of those players have really been in the gym, even if we bring the A team, there's still a chance that we can't beat Serbia, Italy, and Turkey this early in the year. And because it's so early and because there's no guarantee that we would even win those games, I completely agree with the strategy of giving the A team the week off, get them in the gym in Southern California, let them get back at, take whatever time they need, get back in the gym, see some old faces, get back in the rhythm with the national team. Don't make them turn around, fly to Turkey and jump back into a new system to try and beat 3 world-class teams. I don't think it's worth it. I completely agree with Karch's strategy here. If we go 1-3 this first week, that is okay. Got to beat Korea. I think that we will, even with this group. But I'm not sure who Serbia is going to bring. I know that Italy won't bring Paula Egonu. They're still going to be really good. Turkey will probably have everybody. They're going to be trying to play around with Melissa Vargas, with adding her for the first time, see if Ebrar Karakur can survive on the left. I mean, they're playing at home. Turkey will have the A team. Italy is good, and Serbia is good. I mean, we lost to Serbia last year at the VNL final without Boskovic on the team. So I think that we're going to go 1-3 this week. That is okay. We'll beat Korea. We'll lose to the other 3 with this B team. That's okay. Get those players some experience. Have Dana Retke start all 4 matches. Have Asia O'Neill play a little bit. Have Kalia Lanier start all 4 matches. See how she can hang in there. Play all the outside hitters. Play all the middles. Play Ashley Evans, etc. Give her a match. Start her against Korea. Give her some confidence. Play both liberos. Do whatever you want this week, Karch, to get the data that you need going into the rest of the summer, because even if we brought the A team, there's still a chance that we go 1-3 with the calendar the way it is and with the turnaround being so fast. So beat Korea with this B team. Do whatever you want to get some data for further down the line with in the other 3 matches. Come back 1-3, then go to Brazil and go to Korea with more of a mindset to win some matches, because that's kind of how it goes. That's the balance. The balance of trying to make the VNL final, which, I mean, we're going to make the final, but as we learned earlier in the show, we don't automatically get the 1 seed just for making top 8. We are going to be seeded depending on how we finish, just like everybody else. But the other thing is that we got to keep in mind, with the way that Olympic qualification works now, we got to keep a very close eye on the United States world ranking. We dropped to 4th after kind of a lackluster world championship, finishing in 4th in that tournament. But a reminder of kind of how it works. There 12 teams qualify for the Olympics. France, obviously, is one of them. They're the host. So there are 11 more spots. There will be an Olympic qualification tournament later this year in late September for the women. 6 teams will qualify from that event. That will put the field at 7. The remaining 5 teams qualify for the Olympics, the 2024 Olympics, as of their world ranking at the end of the 2024 VNL. So at the end of the 2024 VNL, straight up, the next 5 highest ranked teams in the world get Olympic spots. So just in case the United States women do not qualify at the Olympic qualifier tournament later this year, which is possible. That's a ridiculous tournament. You have to play, I think, 7 matches in 9 days, which is absurd. Just in case we don't qualify there, we've got to keep our world ranking high enough so that we are in no danger of dropping out of qualification zone when it comes to VNL in 2024. And that comes with every single match is worth world ranking points. If we're losing to teams that are ranked below us, we're going to drop a lot of points. So if we go 1-3 this first week, which I expect, if we drop a couple world ranking points, that's okay. But Karch knows this, and they're going to have to keep an eye on that number the rest of the VNL preliminary round to make sure we're winning enough matches to not only get a good seed in the finals, but to keep that world ranking high enough. I would say we've got to be at least in the top 5 after VNL to be where we want to be in terms of the greater Olympic qualification picture. So that's a good summary for that. Let me scan the chat for any questions. And I think that's kind of about it for the show. So we talked about the first week. We talked about the team that we know that we're fielding. The U.S. will go to Brasilia in Brazil the second week, and Suwon, Korea the third week. Also, that travel schedule is downright insane. I mean, Turkey to Brazil to Korea, across the world, like maybe stopping in California in between. I'm not even sure if they'll be able to pull it off. So all the more reason to rest some people, if you ask me. And then come back home to Texas for the finals. Yeah, let me scan the chat here. The opponents will send their B teams first week. Maybe not. Not necessarily. I predict that Turkey will send the A team because they're playing at home. They've got a lot to figure out with a new coach in Santarelli and a new player in Vargas and Karakurt learning the outside position. Everett and I will talk about this more in the show that's coming out tomorrow. Italy and Serbia, I'm not sure. We won't see Igonu. I have no idea if we'll see Bošković. Probably not. I mean, she just played a Champions League final less than a week ago, but we saw Serbia without her last year still medal at VNL. So that team is not to be taken lightly. Yeah, Korea, we'll beat Korea, no problem. We could beat Korea with our U19s is a comment in the chat. I agree. And thanks, Ronnie Cuban Spike, for some of your cute feedback in the YouTube chat as well. I kind of think that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't need to drone this show on anymore. I'm stoked for VNL. All the matches on Volleyball World TV starting next Tuesday. The U.S. women kick things off next Wednesday against the defending world champions with a B team. We will see how that goes. But keep your eye on this VNL on the roster choices, on the world ranking position, and on the seed that we might get headed into the finals in Texas. There's going to be a lot more coverage here on the Volleyball Source YouTube channel, all about we'll cover everything. We've got the full VNL preview for the women coming out tomorrow. Everett will do a show on the Canadian women. We'll do a bunch for the men as well. And we've got the regular 9x9 at its usual time, Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, plus a lot more coverage on Volleyball Source all over the place. So check out the website, volleyballsource.ca. Check out the Discord. The Volleyball Source Discord is the best online chat community for volleyball in the world by far. It puts Volley Talk to absolute shame. So if you're here from the Volley Talk boards, come join a forum that is made in the 21st century. Get in the Volleyball Source Discord. The link's in the description. And yeah, stick around for more YouTube coverage. We'll get the show out for the entire Women's VNL up tomorrow. Everett will do the show about the Canadian women shortly afterwards. And then we've got matches to watch starting bright and early. I think it's Tuesday, like middle of the night, matches in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. So great stuff. I'm really excited for national team season. That should be a pretty good summary for the American women's team. Curious to see how Karch attacks the strategy around this VNL heading into the finals. See if we can pick up some hardware like we were unable to do last year. So for now, Rob St. Clair signing off. Stay tuned here to the Volleyball Source Network. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up if you don't mind. That really helps us out. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.